What's up? What's up? Polo Sports Talking Entertainment here again with another one. Be sure to hit that like button, sub to the channel if you're not a member, and hit them notifications so that you will be notified of all of my videos. Before I get this video started, man, let me give a shout out to the brother Big Mike Too Raw for TV. If you haven't subbed to Too Raw for TV, definitely go sub to his channel. He has multiple channels, multiple platforms. Uh, one of the brothers in the LDBC community, basketball, and diligent, hard worker, and is a top A1 level historian of the game, unmatched and unprecedented knowledge of pretty much everything, all realm of sports. Uh, and when he chooses to talk about various sports that he really doesn't touch on, he's absolutely shout out to Too Raw for TV. Now, reason why I'm giving Too Raw a shout out is because he put in perspective what happened during that time period when when the announcement came for Irvin Magic Johnson in 1991 when he had to retire from the NBA. Now, I know many of there's been a lot of speculation about what really took place. Now, these are the rumors that you often hear, okay? One of the rumors that I hear a lot is that they wanted Magic to retire and he was, pretty much set up with this so that Michael Jordan could go ahead and take over the NBA, which was false. Then they said, okay, well, Larry is he's on the decline, and uh, Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons are not are not the team anymore. They pretty much have conquered, or the Bulls have conquered that feat, and so we're not gonna market around them anymore. So we'll just put this as a storyline, and that's false as well. And then many people believe that there were guys within the organization that had set Magic up because of whatever reason, and that's false. I'm here to tell you that that's false. All these rumors that you hear, that they try to sit up there and say that they try to tell the younger viewers and stuff like that so they could take it and run with it, man, it's completely false. I'm here to let y'all know that. Now, during this time period, um, you know, the virus that caused AIDS or HIV was pretty much new to everybody, even though it had been discovered in 1983. It was still relatively new, a new disease to everybody. There had been, it was a shocker, much like what you see what's going on now with. It's like nobody's even talking about uh, HIV in comparison to what the situation is now, and that's how pretty much it was back then. You got to remember there wasn't social media. There wasn't any type of platform like YouTube, any of that stuff. Your only social media and forms of getting everything was or newspaper or word of mouth, pretty much. And the computers that they did have, it wasn't high tech as it is right now. Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes of everything. When he had announced that he had HIV, you know, of course there were people that were scared and they were nervous, like to Ryan, how he had told Larry, that was true, and he also told Michael Jordan and everything, and they were pretty much sad about everything. Now I'm gonna be real. I felt like when Michael Jordan had made he had made that commercial. If you go back a long time ago, he made the commercial. He said, "Let's do our best to not let him down," and everything like that. Michael Jordan didn't want to do that commercial. He didn't want to do that commercial because you gotta Michael Jordan is a relatively private person, and just to be real with you, man, they were treating Magic like shit. They treated him like absolute shit. The media, people in LA, they tried to, act like they were, sympathetic and empathetic what was going on and stuff like that. First, they want to sit up there and, cry and all this other stuff, and the reason why I'm talking about this is because it was in the docu series in Showtime. And okay, yeah, while everybody was crying and everybody was, worried and, fearful of everything, you know, they they absolutely treated Magic Johnson like he was a monster. Uh, you know, then here you come with the stuff about Magic Johnson. You can't. People didn't want to stand around him. Some of the players, Karl Malone and stuff, when they wanted to bring him back for the All Star game and stuff. Because I've talked about this, I've touched on this briefly before, but I just want to go in depth because a lot of understand how they were really treating Magic Johnson. Now you think Russell Westbrook with everything that he's going on, and I know it's kind of you know I would say overboard and overkill when it comes to his family and stuff like that. But Magic Johnson was the butt of jokes too. During that time they were making jokes about him. I'm not going to do out of respect, for him and his family and everything. They were making jokes about Magic Johnson. They were talking about him. The mainstream media, they were making up stuff saying that, oh yeah, he has the AIDS virus and stuff like that, which is completely different and everything. It's like, hey, salute to y'all. What's up, TJ? I see you in the building. What's up, Stephen Green? Salute to y'all. You know, it it was a time when everybody felt like Magic Johnson was just this big monster. Now you also have the aspect of people shaming him because they felt like he was let's just call it what it is. He was a womanizer. And that was the stigma. Like he was just giving it to everybody and stuff like that. Like he pretty much was a killer and all that other stuff, and had no remorse for what was going on and stuff. Because you got to think, Los Angeles is pretty much it's the porn capital of the world. Uh, and then you're playing in an environment. Well, you're in an environment where you know you got the Lakers, you got the money. Jerry Buss, God rest his soul. You saw how Jerry Buss was. Everybody knows how Jerry Buss was. Why, while he was a great businessman. Uh, wanted to win, very competitive, and everything. Let's just call it what it is. You know, his lifestyle, his lifestyle was, it, you know, it was no joke. It was everything that you could name. I mean, when you talk about the ladies, when you talk about alcohol, he was a heavy drinker, all that other stuff. And look, I'm not trying to sit here and and cast judgment or anything like that because I mean, when you're in the NBA, everybody's gonna party. Uh, we could name countless of NBA players that partied or whatever. But I'm not gonna get into this. Let's just stay with Magic Johnson. Now, I want people to understand too that the NBA, while they did what he could, they did what they could. David Stern did what he could and everything. The NBA really didn't. I'm just saying, in my opinion, they really didn't have Magic's back like that. Yeah, sure, they let him. They let him play in the All Star game and stuff like that. But at the same time, they had his back as much as what they should have. And you know, s- some players, they have their right to be fearful because let's just call it what it is. If something takes place to where he ends up you know getting cut and then or he starts bleeding or something like that, then everybody's gonna have to take precautions because everybody's gonna be fearful of their life. That's just natural. That comes with being a human being. But the way that they were treating Magic, man, was was very unfair. They treated him like shit. Uh, he was being talked about. Even in the midst of him bringing those championships to LA, it was like everybody forgot about pretty much everything, and that just goes to show you how fucked up fans can be, and people can be. One minute they're cheering you on, they got your back. You know, you're the greatest and everything because at one time Magic was the Michael Jordan. Larry Bird and Magic were the faces of the league, so to speak. You had Magic as the hero, and Bird was pretty much the villain or the devil or whatever. But when it comes to this situation right here, I don't think people really understood the magnitude. And the reason why I mention this too also is because with the Russell Westbrook situation and him coming out and having Russell Westbrook's back and everything, it's because Magic knows what it is to be talked about and being in that type of environment, being in LA, he knows how the fans are and everything. And so, he while he's been critical of Russell Westbrook, I think he understands that, okay, let's not take it that far, because he's been in that type of situation before. He's failed many times. You know, I mean, from a basketball level, people have talked about him. You know, when he didn't perform well in some cases. Of course, we've already talked about, you know, Tragic Johnson and all this other stuff, saying that he couldn't shoot, saying that he was slow and all this other stuff. But then there was a said, "What's good? I just watched the second episode." Yeah. Hey, what's up with it, Switch Life? I see you in the building. Now, um, you know, he knows what it was like for people to, you know, to be talked about in to that magnitude. You know, and listen, and people were joking about this thing. Like people were actually making jokes about him. You know, and like I said, I'm not going to repeat the jokes, but you know, you go ask anybody, I would say that's around the age of, I would say around anywhere from 38 to maybe about 60. They'll tell you, man, that period of time was a god awful, because you have to remember they came out with a movie during this period of time. They were coming out with different movies in reference to, you know, HIV and AIDS and stuff. And one of the movies that had came on, I remember when I watched it when I was a little kid. It was called "And the Band Played On," and this was around that time period, because I think it came out in the early '90s or whatever. But you know, during that time, you know, people were terrified. People were terrified to be around Magic Johnson. You would have thought that Magic Johnson was a serial killer. That's how that's how bad they treated Magic Johnson. They vilified Magic Johnson too. You know, and that's all you heard on the news and stuff like that. Good Morning America. All you know, it was a subject of, all these different conversations. Then they casually started to wheel him back in, but you couldn't help but people couldn't help but to focus on, okay, is this guy gonna is this guy gonna die? They were saying that too. Okay, it was like they'll talk about him, right? They'll talk about him. They'll say whatever is necessary about him and stuff. But then they're gonna ask the question, okay, well, is he gonna die? Or, you know, what about his, they were even, speculation about, Cookie, his wife, and shout out to Two Raw again. He also said this too. I remember that too, because about him having a baby on the way. They were worried about his kid, you know, getting the virus and everything. So a lot of people, got to understand that, during this time period, man, Magic Johnson was was seen as a monster. And they were, there were people criticizing him, saying that, how could you do this, and how could you do that? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, and people are gonna say what they say, but the media, nobody's really talking about it unless you were really during that time period. And they really, it's like they don't. When you see Magic Johnson on TV now and everything, it's like he's very well respected and stuff like that. And for a time period, people, it wasn't really like that. Now, of course, they're gonna get on TV. They gotta, keep their image and keep everything intact. But behind the scenes, it wasn't quite like that. What's up, Kareem? I see you in the building. Kasim, I'm sorry. It just wasn't like that. And right now, I'm willing to bet I'm willing to bet any amount of money right now that if he made an announcement, like if it was at this juncture during this period of time in this generation, people wouldn't even think that it was a big deal because it's not as like people have been living with this virus and everything for years at a time. But back then, they were just starting to develop certain medicines and stuff to so that they could live longer and everything. But if you contracted it and everything back then, yeah, you were very fearful. So that I think that's what people were very fearful of. But they treated Magic like shit, man. Don't sit up there and think, don't go for this watered down bullshit that they try to give you, like everything was all great and stuff like that. Man, it wasn't. And I'm glad that they're showing this this docu series. Now I am gonna say this. I want to say this too. Man, they exaggerated uh Jay West character. That was a complete. I think it was a complete disrespect and slap in the face to the great Jerry West. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, would he get angry and stuff like that? Yeah, of course. But he wasn't the only one that would get angry when lose games. I mean, if we want to, if we want to get really technical and we want to be real about everything, go back and go look online and do your research, man. I've seen LeBron James kick over trash cans after losing games, right? And I was shocked that he did that at one time. You know what I'm saying? But listen, man, like, we're not talking about, guys that maybe lost a game of cards or something like that, man. We're talking about, guys that have went numerous times. Jerry West had went to the championship uh, year after year and was losing and he was frustrated. But him, I think it was really exaggerated, and they're gonna do that for Hollywood purposes. But it was said that Jerry West he would he couldn't sleep at night when he lost, and he was very angry and stuff like that. Yeah, he was. I mean, and they said that he wasn't even happy with the championship that he got. You know, I felt like he just wanted he was just a competitive person, and he wanted to be more successful because he really cared. He cared about the organization. He cared about the organization, and he didn't want the Lakers organization to be looked at as mediocre, and that's the same type of mentality that they have to this day. When they lost to Houston in overtime last night, people are disgusted when they see that. But that's a whole nother road. But yeah, Magic was treated very bad, man. He was treated real bad. Some people didn't want to talk to him. They didn't want to have any type of dealings with him. People were very standoffish, and regardless of what everybody just thinks like, oh yeah, well he got HIV, and it was it was pretty much water under the bridge. No, it wasn't like that. He got really vilified. Now, and if he had, now I will say this though, if now when it comes to social media, I think it would be worse with with social media. I don't think, like, okay, from a scale of you know him announcing and saying, oh yeah, well, I have this or I have that. I don't think everybody would be like like that, or oh, scared or nothing like that. But then you have the social media platforms or whatever. Then that's when people are gonna start going in, because you have some evil people on social media, just like what we taught yesterday. You have a lot of snakes and serpents and stuff, and that'll do anything to try to harass somebody. So now, in that aspect, I think that it would be it would be very difficult for Magic. But back then, that time period, man, people were relatively new to everything, and this is my thing too. People had passed away, and people had caught the virus too. He wasn't the only one that had caught the virus. There were numerous of stars that had lost their battle with it. So I felt like it was very unfair, and they weren't getting any of the criticism like Magic Johnson was, but because he's in the bright lights, and big city, and um, palm trees, and you know porn capital of the world, stuff like that. You're gonna have your critics out there, and they're gonna think that their shit don't stink. But they treated Magic like shit, man. They treated him like shit, regardless of what people want to say. And he didn't even look. There's some people that would have actually gave up with the amount of harassment and amount of the amount of stuff that they were saying about him. There would have been people that would have actually gave up, and probably would have been suicidal, as much as what was said about him. It takes a very mentally strong individual to deal with that. What's up with it, Max? I see you in the building. It takes a very mentally strong individual to deal with what he was dealing with. And then on top of that, you got to also take into account that there were individuals, within his circle, probably family, that were saying stuff to him and be trying to belittle him and everything like that. Man, like, and you got to think, like, it's not like it is now. Like now, if you catch, if you end up catching, what we had, the COVID or something like that, right? It's now people are. You have some people that are real scared. You got people. That's how they were acting back in them days. That's how they were acting. And well, it's not funny, but I find it odd that they talk about the COVID more than they talk about HIV now, or they more than they talk about cancer and everything. And to me, I feel like, and this is another thing too. I'm gonna take it on a whole nother level. I felt like they were trying to market off of him too. They were using Magic to market to market this thing like he was the face of HIV and everything when you had people that had already passed away from this. You know, uh, Arthur Ashe. Um, a couple of people that I think it was back in them, and I'm thinking back in that time period. They were pretty much marketing off of Magic Johnson while they were villainizing him too as well. If that makes any sense. Oh, they're gonna criticize him and say, oh yeah, well, Magic Johnson, man, uh, he shouldn't have been doing this, he shouldn't have been doing that. Oh, but they they want to use Magic Johnson to talk about you know the dangers of HIV and talking these social groups and stuff like that. Or Magic Johnson is pretty much the face and everything like that, which is so unfair to him because he wasn't the only one during that time that time period. So that's another thing too that we could talk about him being them marketing off of him, pretty much trying to use him, and it's sad to say, as a puppet. But I felt like if it had been anybody else in the NBA or whatever, like let's say if it was a white person, I don't think they would have made it as big of a deal. Matter of fact, they would have showed sympathy. They would have been really empathetic and sympathetic rather than trying to villainize him. But because he was African American, tall, black, played basketball and everything like that, now they want to feel like, okay, everybody in the NBA or everybody that plays basketball or something like that. It was stuff like that was going on. There was a stereotype. I remember it all, and I was young remembering this, and I remember I kept asking my mom, what's going on with Magic? What's going on with Magic? And she had to explain to me, as a child, what was truly taking place, and then as I got older, then I began to understand what it really was or whatever. Because you got to think, I was as I was getting older, then I saw Magic and Michael, compete with each other. Yeah, I saw him when I was younger when he was, running thing. Him and Magic, I mean, him and Bird were running the league and everything. But then I really got a chance to really appreciate his game as I got older. Even though I got Isaiah as my number one point guard or whatever, because I knew, okay, let's just call it what it is. I ain't gonna be no 6'9". You know what I'm saying? So I had to look at somebody that was my size or a little bit shorter. So I appreciate everybody pulling up, man. Um, Make sure y'all like the video, share it, subscribe, hit them notifications. Polo Sports Talking Entertainment, man. I'll get at y'all later.